Everyone, welcome to another edition of Founder Wisdom Podcast. Today we have Jon Kovach Jr. with us. He is the founder of Champion Circle, which is a cool mastermind. I've been in the mastermind game for quite a while, so we're going to mostly talk about that today. Jon, hello. Can you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a bit more about Champion Circle?
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Appreciate you interviewing me and wanting to talk more. Masterminds of the game. I'm a motivational speaker. I've been speaking on stages for a very long time, even though I'm really young. I've been in the speaking space since I was 16 years old. I started a DJ business as a high schooler, just trying to improve the music that they were playing at dances. And I gained a love and appreciation for emceeing and being somebody who could curate an environment for success and for fun. And that became a passion of mine. I later in my years found Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich and fell in love with chapter 10, which is on the mastermind principles. And I started developing my very own mastermind methodologies, became a certified mastermind instructor and facilitator through the Mastermind Association, and have since then delved deeper into those methods, creating more and establishing more for people, finding more methods that work and accelerate successes. And since then, I've built my own masterminds. I've facilitated some of the biggest masterminds in the world. And at the same time, too, I'm still learning. I'm still a student of the game, and I'm still actively promoting and teaching and training people on how to use the methods that the mastermind creates so that we can create value and accelerated results in everywhere of our lives. I'm talking about school, I'm talking about business, I'm talking about entrepreneurship, even governments and family organizations. I want it all to exist, and that's my mission. So that's a little bit about me, what I do, and why I do it.
Super exciting. And yes, one of the best aspects of masterminds, especially if you are facilitating them, is that you learn so much, especially if the environment is set in a private, confidential environment. I think people are willing to share a lot. What is a nice recipe to book the best mastermind possible? I mean, the list is quite long, but let's start somewhere. What is your recipe to have a fulfilling and a very valuable mastermind group?
Yeah, I'll start with what Napoleon Hill teaches us in Think and Grow Rich. A mastermind can be defined as and simplified to two or more people in the spirit of harmony who have united in an indefinite purpose to provide solutions. And so whether it's two people or more, you can create valuable connections. And I think that one of the most important solutions, or we'll call it recipes for success, is that desire to have harmony between each other. And that is a huge piece, because many people will go into business meetings or discussions or any type of collaboration, and we all have certain things on our minds. It's what can I get out of this, or what can I really gain from this conversation, and the investment of time into these conversations. But Zig Ziglar taught us a long time ago that the most valuable piece of advice that we can really focus on is we can really and truly have anything we want in this world. We can have it all. But the fastest way to get there is to help other people get what they want. And in that service, you shall receive what you desire too. And I believe that. And so you've got to have a unique sense of harmony in that collaboration. So when designing or when building or when collaborating in an environment, that environment needs to have people who are willing to be there to share and to care for each other. That's number one. Harmony, two. And then the next piece, or I guess another spoonful of ingredients to make the best mastermind, is in that environment, not only are people committed to serving one another first, but they're willing to share in a way that is open to suggestion. You've got to be a sponge. You've got to be malleable. You've got to be willing to be coached. Yeah. And when you're in that position, not only do you receive because you give, but because you're in a room full of people sharing and caring towards one person at that given moment. At least we call it in the Habitude Warrior Mastermind, we call it the power of borrowed benefits. And borrowed benefits are literally by being in the room, by being in that atmosphere, by hearing the words of others, pouring into each other, you are accepting a non binary or even tangible person, human being, or prospect, but you're creating an intangible yet infinite solution. And Napoleon Hill talks about this in Think and Grow Rich indefinitely, which is, through many minds we create the power of infinite knowledge. And when you tap into that, when you have access to that, you've got to recognize that if we're working on percentages, I want to work with Mother Nature's percentages, because Mother Nature is 100%. She is undefeated. And if you work off the laws of nature, which are the true principles of success, you can guarantee your bottom dollar that you're going to find a 98.5% or greater success rate, just like Mother Nature. What leaves the percentages for success out of the equation is humanity and our ability to follow through. That's what I believe in. I believe accountability is a huge factor in all this. But just boiling it down into simplicity, Charles, is all you have to focus on is being in harmony, serving one another. That's the spirit of harmony. And then two is be willing to take action based on the information you're given, even if it scares you to death, or even if it causes you some anguish, some anxiety. You've got to be willing to say, okay, I'm uncomfortable with this, but I'm willing and I submit. And I feel
Sure.
like those are the principles every individual should accept upon themselves when it comes to being in a mastermind. As far
Couple
as like
of
environmental stuff, but yeah, it's pretty important.
yeah, a couple of follow-up questions here. So, how do you ensure harmony? Do you have members pass personality tests? Do you just interview them? Do you position various personality types together? How do you make sure there's this harmony and equilibrium in the group?
Oh, I love this question, Charles. First of all, you should always do some vetting. Don't invite just anyone into a mastermind. And many masterminds today are program based. They have a cost, right? People need to have skin in the game to participate in a lot of these professional masterminds. But when you vet people, you want to make sure that they're in a place where they believe their belief system is built on the fact that if I serve and help other people, I too will receive help. And
Mhm.
if they come from that mindset of service, then they're the right fit. Number two is just focus on every meeting. And the Mastermind Association actually really emphasizes that you do this before you start any meeting. You should make sure that everyone understands their role. There's a
Okay.
facilitator, there's a timekeeper, there's someone who is taking notes, a scribe. Everyone has a role in the mastermind, whether you're there to share or there to care or there to be cared for. And that role is important. So one, establish the roles. And number two is, when you begin, make sure that everyone is in a place to give and receive. We do that through various exercises or activities. One thing that I would recommend is breathing. Like, if you start the meeting with a breathing intentional exercise,
Hmm.
you can absolutely set the intention straight for the meeting.
Love it.
So those are two very, very simple but yet important concepts for creating that right environment for harmony.
Love it. Again, a couple of follow-up questions on these. So, do you have a note taker that's part of your team and a time taker that attends the call apart from the four masterminds member?
Great question. I am actually going to offer that to the individual running it. If you believe that you need to have someone on your team to do that, that's fantastic. If
Okay.
you'd rather have technology do it, then that's even better. But
Okay.
I have learned that if you give one of the mastermind members, not necessarily a team member, but if you give those roles to someone else, they feel more empowered by the opportunity to take on that role.
Got it.
Therefore, it's an opportunity to keep everyone involved and create an additional level of harmony. So it's up to you to decide what you want to do. But I have found techniques and success in all three of the various opportunities.
Okay, is 1 hour the best time frame for four individuals? 15 minutes each of speaking time, generally speaking.
A great question. I have found the sweet spot is 60 minutes to 90 minutes. Between that,
That's a
you
long
are,
time though, an hour and a half.
yeah, it depends on the activities you share, right? If you are in harmony, you can do it and you can spread it out. You gotta factor in that some people arrive late. You gotta set the intentions. You gotta, this whole world of Zoom, like it doesn't all start right on a dime. And so if you want to give everyone the right adequate time, then you have to plan that time out. Plus, not always do people stay within the time parameters. And I think it's up to the facilitator to decide we should end this session early. We should extend the clock for 2 more minutes or 3 more minutes based on this conversation, or based on the declarations that each person wants to make as a result of the information shared. But that's just one philosophy out of many. 90 minutes is a long time, and it's hard to hold our attention for that long in many cases. But I have found that the sweet spot has always been between 60 minutes and 90 minutes, no more, no less.
What do you do with punctuality if someone keeps being late? Do you kick them out of the group? And after how much warnings?
Yeah, great question. I think everything needs to be intentional. If someone is consistently late, I think that person needs to either respect the time and the frames of other people's schedules as well as their own. And it's oftentimes because of a lack of planning or a lack of scheduling, or even just a lack of respect. And so if you
Okay.
can have that conversation, it typically only takes once. But in this case, if somebody continues to arrive late,
Yeah.
they may not be the best fit for this mastermind until they decide for themselves that honoring other people's schedules as well as their own, and that means preparing in advance for their meetings, not just running into meetings. I think that that's the kind of person you need to have.
Okay.
And it's hard to say when you're getting paid from people being in a mastermind, but at the same time too, it's all about accountability and respect.
Yeah, because the punctual members will start to leave us at some point if you see you're tolerating that. And my next question is related to that. If a person is, I mean, they keep asking for solutions to their problems, but are not giving good solutions to others. You see that they're lower levels. What do you do with them? Do you place them in a lower level mastermind? Did you not do your job at screening them well for this mastermind, or can there be lower level people with higher level people? What do you do in that case?
Yeah, and I love these questions, Charles. I can tell you're a master at masterminds because you understand the environment. I appreciate your great questions.
Pleasure.
And I'm gonna lean into, what Napoleon Hill thinks about this, because if you were to create your own mastermind, and let's just do the imaginary mastermind. Let's say I imagine that I'm in a mastermind with some of the greatest leaders of the world. Okay,
Yeah.
in my own head, George Washington's in the table. I've got Alexander Hamilton. I've got some great world leaders too sitting at the table, and I
Gandhi,
know that. And I,
Einstein.
yeah, exactly. These people are phenomenal, and what I recognize is that though Einstein has more intelligence and more solution based offerings
Mhm.
than maybe George Washington has, I think it's their intent and their ability to give. I think as an facilitator, you've got to learn where the dynamics are, because if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. But if
Mhm.
you're not contributing in the way that the members or the other people need, then there's always an evaluation of where should that person be, or
Yeah,
what is it that they can provide. And I think that's a
sure.
valuable evaluation to consider, that you want a diversity, but you also want commitment to excellence. And that's
Sure.
just an evaluation.
100%. Because I mean, there's two ways to do it. If you attend the masterminds yourself, you can judge just by listening, but that's more of the feeling. I think the best approach would probably be to send the members some kind of Google form and questions.
Sure.
Do you think that this member added value? Do you like the value provided, and so forth? And if it's, I mean, if we're four and if three people out of, yeah, the only person left is the one being judged, say that, they're not adding value and the group is unanimous, I think it's a clear cut decision, right? What do you do
Yeah.
there? Do you place them in another group or do you tell them goodbye and maybe for the future?
Yeah, I've experienced both. And so luckily, there's been cases where You want to give them solutions and success because you've built that relationship and harmony. So if you have the resources of starting a different or putting them into a different group, maybe a lower tier, that's fine. But recognize that that does take time and resources
Yeah.
as well. But I would also say that, if they're not prepared and if they're not ready, it says more about our character, what we're willing to tell those people, than it is to tolerate them for too long. And if
Hell
we
yeah.
can focus on, cutting them loose when they need to, or it's just saying, hey, look, it's not the right time. When you're ready with these standards to join us again, we will gladly accept you back. But this is our parameters. And if you're not meeting those, then let's just cut it loose. And I've done them both, and they're both equally powerful and they're both equally as difficult.
Yeah, I agree with that. Have you tried free masterminds before, and what was your results?
Great question. I love this question because that's how I built my business. Is I started offering free masterminds until I started learning more and more and more what they're all about, and I decided that for a business, charging masterminds creates commitment.
Yeah.
And that's something I extremely value because I don't want to be around people who are flaky or people who don't have the same values.
Yeah.
But as a mastermind methodologist, I also know that the principles of a structured mastermind can be used in any scenario, any setting, whether it's a team, a family discussion, a government meeting, a school meeting. These types of principles are extremely powerful and important. And if everyone agrees or submits to the process, then it's good too. But I built my business learning the processes. And as an organized, facilitated mastermind, I highly recommend you put money in the game because that's just how you commit. And it tells you a little bit more about that person's seriousness on how they're willing to participate. I think it's just a valuable principle.
Yeah, I've that's also the data that I'm getting and the conclusion I'm reaching. I still run my free masterminds for data mostly, but yes, the commitment is important, and if there's no commitment, there's no mastermind group. Punctuality is lesser, so yeah, I would also recommend the same. As per the research part of it, how do you research the member and reach out to them? For example, on my side, I use cold email, so I tend to go on LinkedIn and check, and reunite similar members in one group in terms of numbers of employees and in terms of revenues. And yeah, that's pretty much how I do the outreach. So I reunite people in the same industries in the same room, and that's pretty successful. What are your methods on your side?
Yeah, I love those. Those are very strategic, marketing based ways, and I follow a similar path. I'll have
Okay.
my own landing pages. I'll reach out to people, networking and connecting as well. I get on stage, I speak on my topics, and then I invite people to one free session of a mastermind so that they can be enrolled into it if they make the cut. But even before they show up to the free session, I jump on a call and I vet them and we go through some of those questions. They also will fill out like a Google form survey to really help us understand who this person is and their interests so that we just don't waste time with them. Those are some powerful principles. And I love that. I also love creating opportunities in service. So if I'm like out and about at a coffee shop working remotely and I bump into a really great person, or the waitress is very kind, or whatever it is, I always look for ways to serve their world by inviting them to participate, and I observe how they like to take action. It's all part of the vetting process. So just being actively engaged in the mastermind process is one way to do it because you're constantly spreading that method and that power to other people who may not have known about it or have heard the process before. So
Mm.
that's sort of my method too, is just natural, organic conversation as well as a strategic marketing approach.
Very insightful. So let's say first research would be the first step. Second, yeah, the means of communication, whether it's LinkedIn outreach or cold email, and then probably come up with a Google form, like you said. What type of questions would you ask in that Google form? Because I thought I tried the approach, and the conclusion was that asking too many questions, especially if they're personal, would kind of turn them off. So I tried to limit to around 3 to 5 questions, and then on the phone, then maybe I can go deeper and also go more into the psychology side and are you fine with adding value side of things. So how much questions in that Google form, what kind of questions would there be, and what kind of questions would you ask them in the physical or Zoom interview?
Man, Charles, I love this question, and I absolutely agree with your suggestion. Limit the questions no more than 5, no less than 3.
Okay.
You want to look at qualitative and quantitative information. And you're absolutely right. If you jump on a pre-screen call, you can vet out a lot of information there as well. But what's most important to me is their value system.
Yeah.
Is this person willing to help others in the progress of learning and achieving their goals? Number one. That's a yes or no question. It's kind of my foundation. Number 2 is, what is your income and what is your desired income?
That's a tricky one.
Yeah.
You ask that on the form or on the phone?
I would ask on the form because it's a vetting process, because I'll follow up with, what is your income and what is your desired income? I want to see where they're willing to go. And those are quantitative questions. Now, the qualitative questions I want to ask are, where do you see yourself as a result of a mastermind? Or what action are you willing to take if given proper coaching and counsel to achieve your goals?
Sure.
I want to just know what they're willing to do. And as a result of all that, I feel like I have enough information, quality and quantity, to recognize this person is serious, this person has potential, and this person is humble enough to take on the risk of serving others as well as being served.
Yeah, I mean, good answer. I feel we could go on forever. We'll maybe have to do a part 2 of that. But one last question: recession's hitting. Are people still willing to spend even low ticket amounts on a mastermind on a monthly basis? Let's say $60 a month. And what if I want to create one day this mastermind in which I charge 10 to 100K per month to elite type of members? What do you think on those 2 topics?
Oh, I love these 2 topics. Here's my recommendation to business owners. If you have a mastermind, use the mastermind as an environment to curate and facilitate your relationship growth and trust with your clients. So low-end masterminds are totally acceptable. And I think that they're a great environment to help facilitate the growth of that relationship with your clients. And you can use that as an opportunity to bump them up, to help them graduate to more. But I always include either a beginner mastermind or a low-end mastermind as a coupled offer to many of my offerings from stage or for my prices, as an offering to get them more involved. If they learn, love, and trust who we are, boom, that's magic. And then to the higher end stuff, I don't think it's out of the question at all to charge 100 grand or more for high-end elite masterminds. You just got to make sure that you have your systems in place. You can surround yourself with the right people, and you speak the language of service orientation. And I think that those things are the makings of a powerful mastermind system.
Love it. Let's keep it to this for today. But yeah, I'd like to have a round 2 there, because you added like humongous value in like 15 minutes. I never would have thought that we would be able to drop that many value bombs in like 22 minutes. Where can people find out more about you?
Absolutely. I'm omnipresent, so I'm on all social media channels. You can actually, I do manage my own social media, even though I own a couple social media marketing channels. Please just DM me on either Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Those are the fastest ways to reach me. And if you want to reach me, don't send me a pitch, but send me a, hey, Jon, I heard you on this amazing podcast with Charles, and I'm the first one to respond saying, tell me more. So I'm excited to connect either way.
Sure. So that is Jon Kovach Jr., Kovach with a K, Salt Lake City, representing Salt Lake City, mychampioncircle.com. And yeah, thank you, Jon. Have a wonderful day and weekend. Thank you for the value you've added today.
And thank you for the awesome questions, Charles.
All right. Peace out.
See ya.
Bye.